Is India pushing back against West's double standards? Does the Pannu episode have the potential to adversely impact India-US relations? Let's try and make sense of these developments. Joining me on India Today, Seema Sirohi, author, Friends with Benefits, The India-US Story. Also with me, Ambassador Veena Sikri, former top diplomat, and Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, somebody who keeps a keen eye on the strategic relationship. But Seema Sirohi, I want to begin by asking you, is India pushing back and exposing West's double standards on support to elements like Pannu and Khalistan terror?
Look, what India is doing and what the Prime Minister said, something more important actually, that the US relationship is now mature enough that it can withstand a challenge like this. The US indictment in the New York District Court is a serious problem. I mean, neither side has denied that. But I think what's important is how both sides have sort of dealt with it with a lot of care and calmly. There's no public posturing. There's no, sort of hyped up statements, no chest thumping. This is a problem because, it's one thing that this kind of accusation is leveled against India in a country that is known to harbor terrorists, i.e. Pakistan or some other place. But to have an accusation like this in a friendly country with which India is trying very hard to develop relations, which is a hugely important strategic partner, is another ball game altogether. You see the difference how India handled the problem with the US and with Canada.
Okay.
The two things are very different. Indian attitude, that is.
But you know what, I'm also very surprised, and let me take that to Sushant Sareen. Yes, India does, expose Pakistan every other day for harboring terrorists, and Pakistan does so. But India is also very surprised that the United States or Canada would harbor terrorists and extremists. But the Prime Minister, when he says, if our citizen has done anything good or bad, we are ready to look into it. What do you make of the Prime Minister's response?
Gaurav, first, I'm a little surprised that you are surprised that countries like Britain, US, and Canada have, given refuge to terrorists. In fact, when it came to Northern Ireland, the Americans continued to support the IRA in many ways, including American congressmen and others, despite having very close relations with the Brits. They seem to think that they have a certain amount of exceptionalism. From our perspective, yes, we consider them to be a friendly country, and we believe that unlike terrorist states like Pakistan, countries like the United States should not harbor people who openly issue terror threats and try and incite violence in India. So that is one part of it. The second part of it is what the Prime Minister said. Now out here, I think in his own way, the Prime Minister has been very polite, very firm. He has indicated that this issue is not one which will, which has the capacity to kind of derail the India-US relationship, because the India-US relationship is far wider and broader than just simply this particular issue.
Okay.
But he's also flagged certain other things as far as India is concerned. The fact that we don't have to agree on anything, on everything, just because we are partners. We will follow our own course where it suits us, just as the Americans would do the same, right? He has indicated that, yes, in case there is a problem, we'll look at it, we'll try and solve it. But that does not mean that it will be solved according to American satisfaction.
Okay.
It will be solved, it will be handled, we will look into it. But just because the Americans have leveled any allegations does not mean that we are going to accept it. And finally, Gaurav, I think it's very important for us to understand, and this is just one area on which I disagree with Seema. A lot is being made that this is an independent judicial process and why this has happened. Now, it's not an independent judicial process when five congressmen of Indian origin come out and
Yes.
issue a statement. Somebody
In
has
fact,
put
I'm
them
coming
to.
to that point in just a moment, Sushant. I'm coming to that point.
Yeah, somebody has put them to it. So
Yes.
the American administration at one level is playing it down, at another level is constantly pushing the envelope and trying to finger us.
And
And I think
coming
we
to
need to
that
be
point,
very
is
careful.
America trying to finger us, as you put it? But let me bring in Ambassador Sikri into this conversation. Ambassador Veena Sikri, read between the lines what the Prime Minister of India is trying to tell the United States of America. What's your appreciation, ma'am?
Well, I think I would really appreciate Prime Minister Modi's statement as being very well-rounded and balanced. He has taken on board this incident and put it in the right perspective. That it's one item of disagreement that has come up between India and the USA. We are prepared to handle it. We will not let it override the relationship. But at the same time, he has flagged the issues of importance. He flagged the issues of importance that, number one, this is a mature and stable partnership between India and the USA, and this should not be allowed to derail that partnership. We will not let it do that. Secondly, security and counterterrorism are issues of top priority for India and the US. We are cooperating on these issues in many cases, and in this case too, we will cooperate and come to an end and a fair conclusion of the matter. And I think that he has very clearly stated that within India, there is a bipartisan support for developing the India-US partnership,
Within the
and we
United
will go
States.
ahead and do that.
Okay.
But we have, to take on board the American concerns, we have instituted a high-level inquiry committee. Now, that in itself, I think there is a tacit agreement from the government of the USA that this high-level inquiry committee can can be established and function in India, and everybody will wait for the outcome of this inquiry committee's findings.
Okay.
So I think that is already a step forward.
However, that point that extremism, violent extremism and intimidation is not free speech, that's a very clear point being made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Seema Sirohi. India and the US, friends with benefits. But in the Pannu case, is the US, as Sushant Sareen also puts it, is the US trying to put India on the defensive, on the back foot, a signal perhaps to remain perhaps a submissive junior partner? And does the Prime Minister's response indicate that's not to be?
Well, I am not a believer of that school of thought that India can any longer be a junior partner to anybody, you know. So I think India is strong enough, big enough, economically resilient enough that that kind of thinking sort of represents an old attitude. What I would say is this: if this was such an important issue, the few Khalistanis that make so much trouble in US, Canada, and the UK, has India demanded like proper action? Has India made it a talking point in every meeting? I'm not so sure. So if it was such a big problem, we should have leveraged then, you know, anything that was necessary to get action from the Americans. Number two, I'd like to address my friend Sushant's point about the Indian congressmen. Okay, look at it this way. These are 5 Indian American congressmen. They are politicians. Do you think they're trying to sort of, build a wall so that the spotlight doesn't shine on them?